and peace! Welcome back to Nails Before Films. Go to the ship please here with me again because I'll be talking about Horse Girls some more. Continuing from last time, I'll be going through an overall review for Uma Musume Pretty Derby Season 3. Hope you guys watched my episode by episode review. If you haven't, the link for that is in the description and on the top right corner now. You can of course watch this video on its own, but I would really appreciate it if you check out the other one as well. Anyway, now that I've talked about the season episode by episode, let's talk about some general issues. Overall, the season had a serious pacing problem. I know it's difficult to fit all of Kitasan's races into 13 episodes while developing the characters, so you have to cut some races. That's understandable. However, before cutting races, you should consider cutting some unnecessary stuff first. For example, in episode 4, cut out the crying stuff at the beginning and let Kitasan go to the trainer right away. If you do that and speed up the training a bit, you can definitely fit the race in the episode. In addition, that would make Kitasan seem more determined and independent instead of a big crybaby who needs to whine to nice nature every single time she loses. Next, every episode of this season felt too standalone. The format is always the same, everyday life and training in the first half of the episode and races in the latter. Because of how the races conclude within each episode, I never felt excited for the next one except for episode 1. I don't know why they would follow a self-contained format like some Nichijou comedy that has no plot. Uma Musume is supposed to be a sports drama, so tension is key. Why would you kill off the suspense like that? I'm not saying they should drag things out, but building up a race for only 10 minutes in an episode, only to end it 10 minutes later, is really uninteresting. And the races. Oh, the races. The races should be the highlight, the climax of Uma Musume, yet they went through them like a chore. There's barely any voiceover to show what the horse girls are feeling or what their tactics are. Also, the animation is bland. It doesn't show you how intense they're running, and most of them just feel rushed. It feels like they just want to get over it and move on. There's no heart put into the races at all. Also, the races should be where you build up the conflict between Kitasan and her many rivals. Yet, most of them were just there to lose. They are super forgettable in the beginning. For example, Crown and Cheval Grand were both severely sidelined in the races they lost. They didn't show how hard they tried or how disheartened they were after losing. Sure, for Cheval Grand, they started doing it toward the end, but it was still lackluster. What I'm saying is that they should have shown us their training, their hardship, and how hard they tried but still fell short. Just a few lines from her sisters and showing us Cheval Grand trying to catch her breath is not enough. This combined with the fact that they barely interacted with Kitasan outside of racing is why their victories against Kitasan aren't as memorable as races like McQueen vs. Rice Shower or Special Week vs. Grass Wonder. And don't get me started on all the yelling. Enough with the yelling. When they yell so much, it's just annoying and lazy. Yelling should be used at the right moments alongside voiceovers to show how intense their running was. It shouldn't have completely replaced the voiceovers. The same thing goes for the announcer, which they overly relied on to convey how the races were going. I know that's how it is in real life, and I'm not saying they shouldn't use the announcer, but you can use it to replace the voiceovers by the horse girls themselves. And the animation effect sucks too. The orange and green effect they did when Kitasan and Daya raced for the first time is so tasteless. These races were all exciting in real life. How they managed to make the dramatized version boring is beyond me. Speaking of Kitasan's rivals, they failed to build up any of them. Even Daya turns out to be a disappointing rival. It would be better if they actually showed us how Kitasan had never defeated Daya since they were kids and how Daya looked up to Kitasan instead of telling us that. They were supposed to be rivals. But compared to Teo and McQueen from season 2, the chemistry between them is pretty thin. Especially after their spring Tenno show race, Daya is practically non-existent. I know she went to France and they never raced again, but at least do a better job of showing how Kitasan helped encourage Daya after her humiliating loss in France. You could do something like Daya pretending to be okay, but Kitasan knew how heart-wrenching the loss was for her and how racing in France messed her up physically. So instead of just running for her fans, she wanted her last race to encourage Daya, her best friend too. However, we only got the scene of Daya tearing up at the end of episode 11, but in the next episode, she seemed fine again and nobody ever mentioned her defeat in France. Teo and McQueen only have one race together in season 2, yet their friendship and rivalry are much more memorable than Kitasan and Daya's in this one. While their second race, the Spring Tenno Show, was done pretty well, their overall dynamics should have been better. I've already talked about Crown and Cheval Grand, who could have been better side characters if given more interaction with Kitasan and more screen time even when they lost the races. Also, I really don't like how they made it seem like Crown and Cheval Grand only won because Kitasan wasn't in her prime anymore. It just seems somewhat disrespectful. As for Duramente, they did successfully build her up as a powerful horse girl who was determined to win. But her rivalry with Kitasan feels sudden and incomplete, especially when they never raced again. I know it's because she retired after Takarazura Kinen in real life, but their rivalry honestly felt unearned and ended as soon as it started. However, all three of them are lucky compared to Sounds of Earth. Why the heck did you guys introduce her if you weren't going to do anything with her? Seriously, why bother? Just so that people would spend money to get her card in the game? They introduced her way back in episode 3. She was even one of the horse girls who sang the opening song. So she must be a big deal, right? Right? Freaking no! She showed up from time to time, lost every single race, and had no interaction with Kitasan except when she was introduced. Why did you guys make her seem like one of Kitasan's major rivals? I had no explanation other than Side Games wanted to advertise the new horse girl and get people to gacha her support card. Then make her more like Ikuno from last season. Why make her seem like a big deal? I don't even remember the races she's in. That's how forgettable she is. She's just kind of there, really no better than the horse girls Side Games gloss over because they don't have the right to them. But there are ways to utilize her. For example, when Kitasan was feeling down after her first race with Daya, Sounds of Earth could have been the one who helped her, kind of like Twin Turbo from last season. It could be something like Kitasan didn't understand why Sounds of Earth never fell down even though she had never won a G1. And Earth told her something along the line that the most important thing to her was running in beautiful, memorable races. And this reminded Kitasan of her own dream of bringing festivals to people. It won't be as touching as the Twin Turbo scene from last season, but at least Sounds of Earth would have some sort of importance instead of just popping up here and there. And it doesn't help that they cut Kitasan's Japan Cup win out of the anime. They only briefly showed it at the start of an episode. Sounds of Earth's most notable races are the Arima Kinen in episode 3 and Japan Cup. She got second place for both races. When you completely downplay her or straight up ignore her in the most important races of her career, of course the audience won't remember anything about her. Next on the chopping block is Team Spica. They are honestly quite useless in this season. They just stand around and commentate on the races here and there. I get it for characters like Special Week, Silent Suzuka, Daiwa Scarlet, and Vodka, but there should be more interaction between Teo and Kitasan. I genuinely can't remember any conversation they had throughout the season, and it's strange how little they talked, especially when Kitasan was having trouble. Teo is supposed to be Kitasan's inspiration, her mentor. I don't understand why they didn't let them interact more. Teo is just so sidelined in this season. There's a similar issue with McQueen and Daya, but because Daya isn't the main character, I get why they don't get to interact more. Besides, the talk McQueen had with Daya before Kikasho was much more memorable and impactful than any conversation Kitasan had with Teo. So I don't have that much of an issue with McQueen's interaction with Daya. As for Gorudo Shippu, if you're going to do her retirement race and make a big deal out of it, then you have to give us more. For people who only watch the anime or don't play Gorudo Shippu in the game, they have no idea who she is, except that she's the quirky one with the Rubik's Cube. They don't know how impressive it is to watch her start from the last and speed up exponentially toward the end to win the race. And they won't get the gate joke either. At least show us some montage of her most impressive races. That way, the audience would have a better idea why she's a big deal and why people like her so much. Speaking of Gorudo Shippu, as I mentioned in my previous video, the idea of Dream Trophy League is dumb. It's stupid that horse girls have peaks and can be unfit for racing. That raises so many questions. Is the Dream Trophy League just a geriatric league for retired horse girls? But why would we want to watch that? It's so stupid that they tried to hype it up by making it sound like the horse girls could race again in another league when they've shown that the horse girls couldn't run as fast anymore. We want to watch them race in their primes. Having them retire is a weird choice in my opinion. Why not make it ambiguous like before? Why openly state that the horse girls will retire? It's just so dumb. Beside the horse girls, the trainer is also extremely sidelined in this season. He's supposed to be the stand-in for the players, so it's weird how much they underutilized him. I actually really like his character, and he's somewhat significant in the past 2 seasons. I remember his speech to Special Week and Silent Suzuka during season 1 when the two of them couldn't get over Suzuka's injury. And I remember how hard he worked in season 2 to help Teo make it to Kikasho, and he was one of the reasons why Teo decided not to retire. The things he did in the past 2 seasons are actually significant, and you can tell he really cares about the horse girls. I even ship him and Silent Suzuka. It's one of the few hetero ships I like. However, I can't even remember what he did in season 3. It was only when I rewatched the season for the sake of making my review that I remember that he was there when Kitasan was training in episode 4. He is practically non-existent in season 3. He pops up here and there but does nothing of significance. Speaking of the human characters, the vendor people are so annoying. I get it. The purpose of having them there was to show how down-to-earth Kitasan was and why people relate to her. I'm not saying they should be completely eliminated, but they took up way too much time when it could be used to better flesh out Kitasan's rivals. Some of the conversations between Kitasan and the vendor people could be shifted to her rivals. For example, Sounds of Earth could be the one who helped her understand her dream of festive scenes was just as valid as Daya and Duramente's dream of changing Uma Musume history. Cheval Grand and Crown could be the ones who helped her make up her mind to stay in Japan. Cheval Grand could say something like, "I'll defeat you if you stay in Japan. I'll prove to you that racing in Japan is just as hard as racing in France." And Crown could say something like, "Takarazura Kinen is just the start. I'll win the full senior triple crown even if you stay in Japan." I don't understand why they use the vendor people so frequently. We come here to see horse girls, not random boomers. I was okay with them at first, but when they started taking up time that should have gone to character development, that was when I started to find them annoying. Anyway, let's get into the biggest problem of season 3, which is of course Kitasan Black herself. I actually have Kitasan in the game, both her regular skin and her New Year skin. I like her in the game a lot. She's cheerful, down-to-earth, optimistic, kind, and hardworking. While she feels down sometimes, in the game as well, she always gets back up and never appears whiny. The game better conveys why she's beloved by the fans, and I enjoy playing her story a lot. So imagine my surprise when she turns out to be a huge crybaby in the anime. I honestly don't get how they messed up her character in the anime so bad when they did a great job with her in the game. In the anime, she's so frustrating and annoying at times. For example, as I mentioned before, why make her cry to nice nature at the beginning of episode 4? Because it's funny? Well, it's stupid, that's what it is. Just make her go to the trainer and tell him she wants harsher training because she lost the last 2 races only by a little. She doesn't want that to happen in her next race, so she wants to train harder. This way, Kitasan would be the one taking the initiative and seem more hardworking and optimistic instead of crying after every single loss. Some people argue that Special Week cried a lot in season 1 too, but I think it's different. For Special Week, the crying was more like a way of letting out her emotions, but she got back up after crying. But in Kitasan's case, she not only cries, but she even needs other people to pat her on the back to comfort her. That's why Kitasan seems more whiny than Special Week. Another example would be episode 8. Kitasan spends the entire episode just lamenting, only to figure out by the end that she doesn't want to give up her dream, which I never thought she did in the first place. They could do something simpler like Kitasan feeling a bit down because she doesn't have a grand dream of changing horse girl history like Daya or Duramente. But after seeing the vendor people, she remembers that her dream is to keep bringing festivals to her fans through her races. And it's okay that her dream isn't as impressive as Daya's. It's not that different from what they did, but this way she wouldn't seem like a huge crybaby who gave up her dream even though she already achieved it. There are so many ways they could have improved Kitasan's character. It's hard for me to like this season when the main character is so unlikable. I don't understand how they could have gotten her character so wrong when they could just reference the game. Anyway, although I had tons of complaints, I don't think Uma Musume Season 3 is bad. It's just excruciatingly mediocre. I know I'm being a bit too harsh, but Season 2 was just too good and I couldn't stand the drastic decrease in quality for Season 3. However, like I said, I don't think it's bad, and fans of the game are probably still going to somewhat enjoy it. Some of the episodes are still done well, like episode 1 and 2. I cried right after the first episode because I couldn't stand it when someone gave it their all, but it wasn't nearly enough. And I think episode 2 did a good job of portraying Kitasan's struggles and how she overcame them to win Kikasho. Daya's Kikasho win was also decent. I cried after she won because I'm a sucker for family themes, and I was just so happy that Daya was finally freed from her family jinx. Episode 9 was amazing. Well, not season 2 finale amazing, but still great. The race was finally decent, and this was the first time Kitasan and Daya actually felt like rivals. I cried so hard when Ambitious World started playing. I just loved that song so much. And I loved what Kitasan said to Daya after she won. She said as long as they were together, they could go anywhere. That's true in real life too. Sometimes with the right person by your side, you can go to amazing places and do incredible things. I have a sister myself, so I'm a huge sucker for sisterhood. Everything else was pretty much the same quality as the previous seasons. The songs are good. I didn't like the opening at first, but it grew on me. The individual songs by Kitasan, Daya, and Cheval Grand were great as well. I especially like Cheval Grand's song. Only if they could make the episode as touching as the song. One last little complaint is that I wish they could have one more winning life. In season 2, at least they had 2, winning the soul in episode 1 and the opening in the season finale. But in season 3, we only get the opening in the season finale. This isn't a big issue, just something that would be nice to have. The game has some great songs, so I wish we could have gotten one like we did in season 2. Overall, season 3 is watchable, although I wouldn't recommend it to people who are trying to get into Uma Musume. I wouldn't tell them to skip it either. I would probably just warn them don't expect it to be as good as season 2. But season 3 definitely still has its moments. Hope the upcoming animated film will be better. It's made by the same production team behind Road to the Top, so I think it'll at least be decent. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video and liked my Uma Musume inspired nails. As always, like, subscribe, comment, share, do what you want. I forgot this last time, but here's my trainer card if any of you want to hit me up in the game. And happy 3rd anniversary Uma Musume Pretty Derby. Keep nailing it and uma unya unya san ni each fight, people!